Hello, guys. This is Fred from Profile, and today I'm very fortunate to be talking with Greg Spawton from one of my favorite progressive rock band, Big Train. How are you, Greg?
Very good, thank you, Fred.
Hey, before we talk about the new album coming up, I'd love to know something. Going back in 1990, when you guys formed the band as a hobby, did you believe or had
Yep.
any hopes that one day Big Train would become what it is today?
No, honestly, no. It's been a ridiculous journey, really. As you say, it was an entirely hobby band, and life just went on whilst we were doing this hobby stuff. And we got, I remember back in maybe '94, we got a licensing deal in Japan, and so very briefly we thought, oh man, we're going to be big in Japan or something, and that just fizzled out. So I always had my feet on the ground, and I never really thought anything other than, I'm a songwriter and I'd like my songs to be heard by people, as many as possible. And then from sort of 2009, it just started to turn around and become something, from my point of view, like a runaway train. We suddenly started selling albums in the tens of thousands, and playing gigs and all sorts of crazy things that I never really imagined. And I'm 56 and I quit work at, I don't know, like 52 or something. So it's it's a pinch. I quite often sit back and think, you know, did that really happen? It's been a strange journey. We're the slowest starters in rock music history, I think. We took a long time to get going, but it's been good fun.
I, I read that you went from being a specialist in homelessness to become a full-time musician. So tell us a little bit about yourself
Yeah.
and how you made the jump from one career to the other.
Well, work was very good to me, really. I was working. Um, I was always more interested in music than anything else. But I was holding down a decent job, doing homelessness work in the UK. And then I got divorced, and I needed to keep a roof over my head, so I needed to take the work a bit more seriously. So I sort of started to concentrate on the career a bit, whilst still dabbling in music. And I found myself getting promoted. So I was managing a team and all of that sort of stuff. And they were great to me. They knew that the band was beginning to, become more of a thing. So they enabled me to go part time for a while. So they were, they couldn't have been more supportive. And then when it came, to it, it was a question of, really, I was kind of, they were making lots of cuts and things. So I was kind of pushed into a position of either you really go for the job or you really go for the music. And my wife, who's always been an incredible part of my life, just said, this is your one chance, really. Now is the time to just focus on music. So yeah. And then it's been a full-time job, since then. But yeah, no regrets. It is what it is. Life's a journey, and I wish I was 26 and not 56. But it is what it is, and we're trying to make hay whilst the sun shines here, and do what we can to keep the band moving forward, really.
Yeah, nice story. You guys are just about to release a brand new album titled Common Ground, which is Big Train's 13th studio album, if I'm correct. You think?
I think so. I don't really. It sounds about right. So let's hope it's not unlucky for some. We'll find out.
The release date is set to July 30th. What's the feeling this time around? Like, are you nervous, anxious, confident?
Actually, I haven't really had much. You know, I, I think I've seen like one review so far. So you know, I don't really know how people are going to you know how people are going to experience the album. I like it. That's the important thing. We all like what we've done. As you probably know, we lost some band members last year, so it was kind of like it's like a fresh start for us, and to some extent, you know, we either had the choice of you know sort of brooding and getting cross about life, or just getting on with it. And the four main songwriters were left in the band, so we decided to do the latter. And yeah, so we made an album of music that we wanted to at this particular point in time. Yeah, I can't. I mean, it's interesting for me. The problem is in music. You know, we made this album in November last year, so it's for us. We're already writing, you know, new songs and thinking about touring and all of those things. And suddenly the album's coming out, and we're doing interviews and stuff, and you know, we're kind of having to remind ourselves of what it was like when we were recording the album. Almost, it's like, you know, it's the same for anybody when you're making a film or an album or whatever. But I mean, all I can say is I really like the album. I think it's a good old Journey album. You know, I think it's got some fresh ideas and a slightly different side to us. And I think, but we haven't thrown the baby. There's an expression in England where you throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know if you have that expression there, but it basically means, you know, if you change something and change the water, but you throw the baby out and lose the essence of yourself, I suppose. So I think it's got the essence of the band, but also some new stuff too. And I think that's a good place for us to be. I think, you know, it's nice to do some different things. So yeah, we're really happy. You know, it's you know, it's good. Yeah, but I will be interested. Have you heard it?
I heard it.
Have you heard the album?
I did. Loved it.
So
It's
what do you think?
going straight to my top five. I heard it twice because I just received the promo. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Seriously, you guys
Oh,
rock.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Good.
To me, it sounds like there's 28 people on that album. I mean, it sounds
well,
like
I mean, there's some very talented, you know.
the album.
It's been good fun. One of the things that
oh, sorry.
one of the things that I liked, sorry to overspeak it there, was I think it unleashed Rickard a bit, because of course Rickard can play guitars and keyboards. So with Danny leaving, he was, you know, doing most of both. And you know, he's incredibly talented, and I just think it unleashed his sound onto the album a bit more. So that's been a nice thing for us. You know, there were times when he was stuff that I thought would be on piano was coming back on organ and things, and I think it gave us a bit of additional edge. So yeah, it's been good fun. I'm glad you like it. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I did. The album cover shows planet Earth and two hands holding each other. At first sight, at least for me, it's hard not to make a relation with the COVID pandemic. Can you describe the concept or the theme, if any?
Yeah, so obviously common ground is a very well-known phrase, certainly in the UK, and it's where people come together, you know, where they can find their common humanity or common sense of humanity. And I think we've been driven in recent years by the internet. Really has been one of mankind's most amazing inventions, and also it's been like lifting a stone and thinking, crikey, there's some unpleasantness under there that we weren't expecting to see. So it's brought us close together. I mean, I'm talking to you now across an ocean, and yet it's also divided people in ways that, you know, I haven't seen really since, you know, I don't know, since before the Enlightenment, when we were arguing about religion, I suppose. So I think we just wanted to make a slightly hippie-ish statement that we're stronger as a species together, that there is more that brings us together than divides us, you know, and that we should be looking to find common ground rather than looking to find ways of splitting people up and dividing them. So that's the kind of overall arching theme, and that we tackle that there's the song called Atlantic Cable, which is obviously very directly about historic attempt to connect the continents. So we try to tackle that in various different ways. And yeah, there's a song called Strangest Times, which is David saying, right, Christ, we're in the middle of an extraordinary moment in history with this pandemic. I want to write about it. I want to talk about that. And so he did. So we deal with that head on, and we deal with, a few other themes, and there's also some personal stuff on there. So it isn't a concept album, but is an album with a theme, and Sarah, the artist, wanted to convey that with the hands reaching out across the world, really, to say, as I say, we're stronger together than apart.
Well, you mentioned you guys recorded back in November, but like, can you just, who took part of the writing of the songs, like lyrics, music? Is it like a full collaboration, or mostly you, or?
No, we tend to. We have written some. All four of the core members are individual songwriters, so we all, that's probably the main things that we all do. I mean, NDV's probably been known more historically as an amazing drummer, but he's writing a lot more now, and he's obviously done his solo album fairly recently, Invisible, and he put forward a couple of great pieces for this album too. So we wrote the album for the most part. Our own. We were separated anyway by the pandemic. The original plan was to record it. We thought we'd be clever, and the pandemic was breaking out across the summer last year, and we thought, well, if we booked studio in November, we'll be able to get Nick and Ricard in from the US and Sweden. So we had Real Word Studios booked here, and the plan was just be in a room together for a whole week. All the songs pre-written, but we just were going to kind of nail the arrangements and nail the recording, and record it as a rock band rather than anything else. But there was a second wave, and now everything we did just seemed to have, like everybody else, I suppose, just seemed to be fall apart, really. So David and I went to Real World, and we did our bits there. Nick and Ricard had to work remotely. And of course, we've got new live band members now as well, Dave Foster, Carly, and Claire. And so they came along and did some work with us at Real World too. And in fact, we had just for a couple of hours, we did a little acoustic session with a couple of them, which is nice. And we'll probably put that video out, in the next few weeks. So it was a strange. The last 18 months has been really weird, has it not? And so we've just had to kind of roll with it and go with it and all of those things. And of course, we're planning, tours for next year, and we're assuming they will go ahead. But even now, I'm not. One worries about things still not being properly back to normal for a little while. So I hope it does, because I'm not getting any younger, and we want to get back out there and play to people. It's it's been frustrating.
Yeah. So you already mentioned it a couple times, but there's been several changes in the musician lineup over the years. A lot of changes. A couple years ago, there was like 8 of you, and now there's only 4 of you. Yeah. So, like, how does it work in 2021? You said you're already working on the new album, on the next album. So how does it work?
Well, there's a couple. Yeah, we lost. Andy left the band 2 or 3 years ago, so we were down to a 7-piece. We've always been a crazy big, or certainly in recent years, a crazy big band with a core band members, but also a brass band, and all those things. So it's always been a bit of an unlikely thing to do. But we had tours booked last year. They were cancelled, and I think then Danny, Dave, and Rachel were then left in a position of thinking, do I want to be, is this what I want to do with my life? Do I want to be spending my life on a tour bus? I think the pandemic has led people to think quite deeply about the directions of their lives and what they want to do. Now, of course, for me, Ricard, Nick and David, that's exactly what we want to do. For the other three, it wasn't what they wanted to do, so they decided to leave. All separate decisions. It wasn't like a big walkout or anything, but it did leave us in a degree of disarray, unquestionably, over last year, which is when we, wrote the album, and decided to carry on. Moving forward, yeah, we, like any band, you have to have a plan, and we've got plans probably for the next 2 or 3 years in terms of scheduling things. And we know that we can't just suddenly come up with an album, when we're off tour. We need to think about getting the songs together. So I'm writing, and I know the other guys are writing. We got the new live band members. They're doing some writing for us as well. So there's a huge amount of talent in terms of the writing department in the band. And there'll be some. Yeah, there's a few things that I can't talk about at the moment, but there'll be some. There'll be some interesting things happening in the next year or so, I think.
But when you guys hit the road next, will you be able to recall some of those, past band members, or will it be mostly like new people?
So we've there's the four of us in the sort of core band. We've got Carly Bryant who'll be joining us on keyboards, Dave Foster on guitars, and Claire Lindley on violin. So that's the 7-piece that will be playing in North America and in Europe. So and that's all either booked and announced, or booked and about to be announced. So it's kind of all all being planned as we speak, and it's a question of it'll soon be we'll be in Canada in, I think, something like 6 months' time. So it won't be long before we need to start practicing some songs, or learning them rather. So that's all. It's all good. Everything's positive for us at the moment in terms of getting that new lineup established. And we can't. The guys that are working with us now are just like the ones before, amazing musicians. So I can't wait to get out there and show people what we do. What's going to be interesting next year for us is North America. We're not very well known there, so we'll be playing some fairly small shows there. In the UK, we can play bigger shows, and so therefore it'll be 2 very different tours. But I think that's I've got to a certain age where it's good to experience things, and and not hide away from life, and so I'm looking forward to both sides of the touring life. Really should be good.
Question that was probably asked many times, but big train, like how did you come up with big train? Because it sounds funny at first when you don't know like how deep the music is and how great you guys are.
It's a it's a band name that's been remarked upon negatively many times, shall we say, diplomatically. It's not something I'm especially wedded to or proud of. It was kind of back in 1990, whatever. It was just names in a hat, and that one came out. It started off as my family were on the railways. So we were. My mum lived in Leicester, and her dad was on the railways, and her uncles were on the railways, and so it was part of the family tradition. And I was bought a train set. I was 10 years old, and somebody bought me a train set called Big Train, and I loved it. It was great, and so you set up around the floor. And my brother was in a punk rock band in '78, I think. When I was a young lad, and I suggested they were looking for a band name, and I suggested that to them, and they took it. And then when I moved down south and got together with the Big Train now, I remember that name and threw it into the hat, and that was it. And I think in a funny way, the name has had more meaning in recent years, because we have taken this approach where we play live with a brass band, and it is a big show. It's kind of found its own identity, really, and so whilst I wish we'd have picked something a little bit more exciting many years ago. It is what it is, and it's
Well,
you know,
as far as I'm
it's just
concerned,
how it's the umbrella.
you see, big train for me nowadays. I mean, it sounds perfect. It's like
Okay.
pineapple teeth or porcupine tree, or like it. They sound funny at first, right? Because you don't know the band, but when you've heard it so many times, it's just like eBay or Amazon, or it becomes a name by
Yeah,
itself.
no, that's a very good point. It's a brand, isn't it? A name is a brand. It's an identity, and yeah, I mean, Amazon is a really weird name for what started off as a bookshop, I think. But look where they are now. So I agree. If it sticks in people's minds, then that's all that matters, really.
Yeah.
And it seems to have done the job there. So.
A year and a half into the pandemic, for some bands, it was an opportunity to release new material like a little ahead of time. How about Big Train? How were you affected as a group? And like, was Common Ground like expected to be released in summer 2021 at first?
No, I think it was originally planned that we'd be doing an album, putting an album out late this year. So when we lost, unquestionably, we were touring May and July last year. So we wouldn't have finished touring till August last year, and then we'd have had a few weeks off, I guess, and then we'd have written it, and then we'd have recorded it in the spring of this year. So I think it brought the whole album forward by about 6 months. And in fact, we probably, I mean, we had CD copies of this album arriving maybe 3 or 4 months ago, but the vinyl, which is a big part of what we do these days, the vinyl pressing times are so lengthy now, partly because everybody's recording albums. Everybody, all musicians are thinking, cracky, I've got an extra year of time that I wasn't expecting. So they are, they're suddenly, emerging with albums which they maybe weren't thinking about. Because a lot of musicians make their money on the road these days. That is where they can make their living, and so they've had to look coming off road. They've had to then think about what to do. So yeah, it's maybe accelerated things by 6 months, but no more than that. But it would have been, without the pandemic, would we have lost the band members? Probably not. If we hadn't lost the band members, would this album be the same as it was? Definitely not. It's definitely been a different album for more than one reason. And I think, once you realize that change is happening, you run with it and make a feature of it rather than say, sort of resist it, I suppose. So that's where we were with it. We thought, actually, the band's changing. Let's go with it and make a new album, slightly different from recent ones, I think.
So, about touring, are you confident there will be more dates announced, more
Well,
countries?
we're announcing. We should be able to announce the North American
Good.
tour in the next week or two, and I think that's about 20 dates. So that's a fairly long tour for us. A very long tour for us. The UK tour, that's been announced. That's March next year. The other issue is a European tour, but because of Brexit here and the pandemic, there's a couple of issues all happening at the same time. So we need to get a bit more reassurance on the Brexit side of things before we can commit to a European tour. And there's Japan as well. I mean, we'd be quite keen to get out to Japan at some stage, but that requires the audience to be. I mean, in essence, to tour at the level that it's a very expensive show to put on the road because there's so many of us, and that means it's 2 tour buses, not one, and it's it's a lot of money just to feed people is expensive. So we need to get either decent offers from promoters, or booking agents to do that work and get good offers for us. So it's a complicated business, the rock business, and so we're reliant to some extent on what offers come our way. But yeah, I'm as it speaks, I'm confident that we'll be on tour in February, March next year, and let's hope that that happens. Because if it doesn't, I think we'll all go mad. We'll have to make another album.
I'm sorry, my ignorance. I'm from Quebec, Canada, so way up there. Um, but Brexit, like, how are you affected by Brexit? Like, can you tell me more?
So Brexit, the problem with the benefit of the European Union was that it affect for musicians was that it meant that okay, here actually is a different way of explaining it. So if we go from the US into Canada, there's going to be issues crossing that border, and in Europe, what happened is because the UK was part of the European Union, the border became an external border effectively outside of Europe. So we could travel. We played in Germany a couple of years ago, and we could travel from Germany to Italy, to Spain, France, whatever, without any hindrance at all. Once because it's all part of the union. Once Brexit happened, that requires governments to reach agreements about artists, and what it requires them to do is to say, right, an artist can leave the UK and can travel to various European countries without having to do border checks and carnets and all of the sort of bureaucracy at every border. So that's what we're missing at the moment. At the moment, that bureaucracy has all gone back in, and so if we were to play, say, a logical tour would be France, Spain, Germany, Italy, Holland, etc. We would have potentially have to get visas for all 5 countries, and deal with border issues on all 5 of those countries. So somehow we need to, it's up to the politicians to do their job here. They need to find a way of reaching an agreement that can make it happen. Now, an American band, the American bands, I saw Neil Morse bands announced a tour, and obviously they're going into the UK and going into the EU. But they're probably able to deal with the EU as a single entity, and that's what we need in the UK. We need to be able just to say, right, okay, we're crossing one border, but not all the different ones within the European
request,
Union. So
one.
It's just politicians need to get their game together, really.
Well, thanks for the.
But to be fair, yeah, the pandemic's probably absorbed much of their energy, really. So one can be critical of them, but on the other hand, realize that they've actually had to be dealing with something that's been a bit extreme. So let's hope they get their fingers out, and let's hope the pandemic fades into memory and they can focus on that.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, back in May of last year, there was a lot of sad fans here in Quebec City, Canada, for not being able to see you perform live. Some of us even went out of our ways to plan on traveling to the US to see you at Rosefest. Yeah, there was a bunch.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow, crikey. Yeah.
Before
That's a shame. But I think I know Canada's it's in the plans. So yeah, we'll be it should be soon. It's good. Yeah, it looks good.
Looking forward to it. Yeah. Before I let you go, Greg,
Although it's going to be cold.
No, it's warm here.
In February?
No, it's going to be really cold. Yeah.
I spoke to NDV yesterday, and of course, because we're playing in Canada and then heading over to the West Coast and then heading south to Arizona and stuff. It's he just said, you guys are going to need to pack winter clothing and summer clothing all in the same thing. And it's difficult. I know again, it sounds ludicrous, but for a European, quite how big North America is, we know it's big, but it always comes as a shock when we get there. It's ridiculous, but it just is. It's how it is. Europe's a sort of a smaller place in many respects. So So yes, I will need to make sure I'm well packed for next February.
Yeah, for us to go to like British Columbia, it's almost as far as going to the UK, right?
You can tell me that, but I don't think I think I'm going to have to be on the tour bus driving across for a week before I kind of think, crikey, this place is really big. You know, it's just hard for us to. I mean, I've spoken to American people before, and you know that you guys will think nothing of, or North American people, you guys think nothing of driving maybe 50 miles to do something like go to a coffee shop or something. Whereas in the UK, we just don't. It's much smaller world. The horizons are much smaller, and so we just have a different ethos. You know, so yeah, it's going to be quite an eye-opening thing for us. So we're looking forward to it. Be good.
Before I let you go, I have a few more questions. They only require one
Sure.
or two word answers. If
Yeah.
you don't want to answer, you just say pass. You personally,
Okay, dude. Yeah.
are you more comfortable with a guitar or a bass guitar?
These days, bass guitar.
Bass guitar. Growing up,
Yeah.
what was your favorite band or artist?
Um, I'm going to go. I'm going to cheat and go with two. I'm going to go with Genesis and Van der Graaf Generator.
Oh, you performed live quite a lot of over the years. What was your best live experience?
Okay. I think we played a festival in Lorelei in Germany, and that was amazing. You know, it was everything you'd want from a festival experience. You know, it was hot and it was a lovely evening, and the lights were going. It was fantastic. It was just like a dream come true. So I would say Lorelei was my favorite so far.
Very nice. Other than Common Ground, what was the last album that you played at home?
The last time I played at home would be by Justin Curry, who is the lead singer and bass player with a band called Delamitri. I don't think they're that well known over North America. They had one biggish hit over there, but the guy's a genius songwriter, absolute genius, and they've released an album recently for the first time in many years. So that would be. It's not prog rock. It's just great rock music, just absolutely great rock music, and he's a lyricist of extraordinary quality. So I would say that's probably the last thing I listened to.
I'll check him out for sure. Name one song you wish you had written.
Okay. I'm going to name two because I'm a terrible cheat. I'm going to go with a song, Madman Moon by Genesis. I think that's a beautiful piece of writing. I think it's, you know, it's so clever, that instrumental section in the middle, and to come out back into the sort of piano section. I think that's an incredible bit of writing. And there's a song by Van der Graaf Generator called Refugees, which I absolutely love. It's very anthemic, very moving, very beautiful, and I listen to that sometimes. I think, you know, I wish I'd have. I listen to a lot of songs and think I wish I'd written that one.
Yeah.
But that particularly, sings to me. So.
Name one country you wish you could perform live but still haven't.
Yeah, Italy. So I've got we've never played Italy. We had shows booked there, but they were cancelled. I've got, you know, some Italian blood in me, and for me and my wife, it's kind of like a second home, really. You know, we go to Italy a lot, so yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, my fantasy is a decent sized show in Rome. That's what I'm looking forward to most.
And name one band that you secretly enjoy listening.
Secretly, I probably. I mean, they're not. They used to be really uncool, but I think now it's okay to like them. But I do like ABBA. You know, there's Dancing Queen. If you're at a party and Dancing Queen comes on, I defy anyone not to get on the dance floor. You know, and it's got a lot of pathos to it as well. It's not just you fall to the floor. It's, you know, it's quite sad. you lift the lid up on that song. So, but yeah, as I say, not as uncool as they were, but I think ABBA are great.
Are you more into vinyl, CDs, or digital music?
Right, I'm going to fess up to being more of a CD fan. But I've got a strange relationship with vinyl. I obviously it's really important when I started collecting music, but when CD, my frustration with it was, the obvious wear that it would show, and you could just drop the needle on it and scratch it and stuff like that. So when CD came out, I adopted it wholeheartedly. I rebought all the albums that I'd bought on vinyl, and then I rebought all the reissues as well. So I'm probably more of a CD fan. I do understand vinyl though. I mean, I think for me, it's holding that big thing just dials back into my youth really. So I do get it. But I think more than anything, I'm a CD thing. And honestly, if I'm totally honest, majority of my listening these days is probably on Spotify, unfortunately, because it's convenient. You're out and about, and I take an Italian lesson, and so on Spotify we listen to Coffee Break Italian to because it helps with our Italian. So it's kind of it's kind of it's the convenience, I suppose, more than anything.
Last one for you, sir. Tomorrow you can play live with one of these artists. Who would you pick? David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, or Elvis Presley?
Right, that's a very good question. Now, David, our singer, it's David Bowie's his favorite artist, so he would be furious with me, but I'm going to choose Freddie Mercury because I just think that would be a blast. We sang backing vocals for Robert Plant once, and that was quite a ride. So it's not when you're on stage with someone who's really, really famous and really good at what they do. It's both interesting and exciting. And I think Freddie was, just obviously a legend and incredibly talented. So yeah, I think I'd go with Freddie.
Again, Common Ground will be released on July 30th. It's already available as a pre-order on CDs, double LPs, as well as special bundles with very nice T-shirts. You just visit Big Train's main website. Everything is there. Thank you, Greg, for this wonderful interview. I had a blast.
Thank you, Freddie. It was really good to speak to you.
So hope to see you in Quebec very, very soon.
Yes. Yes, excellent. Looking forward to it.
Cheers, sir. Thank you very much.